How long have you lived in this area?
Um, my whole life.
Oh, you were born and raised in this area,
Yeah, I was.
like I was. Have you noticed recently, we hear this time of year, usually we hear the coyotes howling. Have you heard coyotes lately?
It's been about 2 months since I heard coyotes around my house.
Go ahead.
I usually hear all winter, of course, and during the spring we hear coyotes. They used to travel in packs from, it could either be from like 3 to 9, and they will come around nighttime and go in our backyard to eat our dog's food. And we used to chase them off every night. And it's been about at least 2 months, about almost 2 months since I heard a single one. The last time I seen a coyote was during February, like the last week of February. And since then, not a single coyote has been near our home.
Interesting. So you just chased them off, huh? You didn't, they didn't kill your dogs or your
No.
pets or anything. You just.
They just ate and left.
Okay. What about? Have you noticed an absence of any other wildlife? What about hawks? Have you noticed any?
Not really hawks, but we do have 2 owls that take refuge in our trees, because our home has a lot of trees, and I usually see them every morning. Oh, I hear them at nighttime, but I always get ready in the morning, and I can hear them, and I can see them, and they too are no longer with us. I assume that they migrated or left to another location, but
Do they normally migrate, or were they usually there year round?
they've been there year round actually.
So that doesn't, and they aren't really a migratory bird, but they've disappeared, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't noticed hawks in recent weeks either. And I usually see red-tailed hawks around here all the time, and a few osprey around the river. There are some bald eagles. Have you ever seen the bald eagles up around the river?
No.
There's some of them that nest up there. What about people's health? I'm really very concerned when I see this many animals disappearing this suddenly, that perhaps pesticides have been recklessly used, misused, and I'm very suspicious of which pesticides. Do you know any people around here that have had problems with obesity or thyroid problems?
Lots. There's
Really?
a lot of obesity, especially in children at kindergarten. Not only that, but they do have breathing problems too. They could simply run not even like half a lap, and they already are choking, gasping for air. And I even have family members that have that too.
Asthma and
Asthma and a lot of just horrible lungs, and it's not because they don't smoke at all. It's just they have bad respiratory problems.
Yeah. And do most of them think that it's just because of the dust, or because of the do they?
Most of them think it's genetics. Like, oh,
It's genetic?
yeah, like, oh, my grandpa had asthma. I'm gonna have asthma,
Well, not real. It's not usually, but I guess there can be a predisposition to it. But we do have one of the highest asthma rates here, and the irony is this is where they used to send people from other parts of the country that had respiratory diseases, TB, asthma. But we have so much dust in the air now, and it's interesting that there's so much obesity, because I know my grandfather used to tell me that members of the Quetzal and Cocopah tribe usually didn't drive places, they ran. They ran everywhere. And I remember the ones that worked for my grandfather, they certainly were not obese. A couple of the women were. That was it. So I wonder if it's really, is it genetic or is it environmental? And I guess that's something we need to investigate. And Terry Frazier's going to be in here a little later. I need to talk. She owns the health food store in this area.
Oh.
And is there anything else you can tell me that you've noticed that's changed as far as wildlife? Are those the biggest?
Probably nature, like the, what do you call it, the weather.
Oh, okay.
Because the other thing too I noticed also is the weather change. I mean, they storms will like be predictive, like, oh, there's a big storm coming, and you can literally see the thunder, and you can almost feel the rain, and all of a sudden.
It's interesting that you mention that because this area is heavily chemtrailed, and we're surrounded by the Yuma Proving Grounds, and they do a lot of directed energy weapons testing here also. And those are good observations because, in fact, they do destroy the thunder clouds that come around us, and the patent for those chemtrails includes barium, titanium, aluminum, and magnesium. And barium oxide is used in laboratories even to dry up things, and it will literally take the moisture out of the environment. And that's what it's done. A lot of this drought has been induced. So, yeah, it is a lot drier. And it's interesting. Have you noticed, you've noticed those days when we have a lot of overcast. Have you noticed those sky spiders in the sky? Have you noticed the streaks that come behind the jets and then spread out? The Hopi Indians call them sky spiders. I just call them chemtrails. But anyway, have you noticed days when there's lots of that and it gets overcast? Have you ever noticed, you say there are people in your family that have asthma, people you noticed. Have you noticed the asthma? Does it get worse on those days?
Yes, it does. Usually when they have overcast, they go out to the sand dunes, which is outside of there in the desert. And I usually blame it on, oh, we've been out in the dirt, it's been windy, but they wear a whole bunch of protection. And yet, the next day, they're coughing and just staying home in bad condition. And I always thought, oh, you guys caught a bug, but I think something, maybe all that chemtrail and stuff chemicals falling onto the surface, they're going like 60 miles per hour, but then they're breathing it in. So I predict maybe they're inhaling bad stuff.
And they are. Barium, aluminum, and titanium are all highly toxic. And aluminum even passes the blood-brain barrier. I've noticed a lot of people have a harder time concentrating. I've heard them actually use the term brain fog. People come. Have you ever experienced that around here? Are there days when it just feels like it's hard to concentrate? You're confused. It's just hard to.
All the time.
Around here.
Yeah, like it's not like, I don't know. I usually just assume it's lack of sleep, but sometimes when I do get a lot of sleep and it's just too hard to concentrate, like it just feels like, head hurts, or, I can't focus, and it's.
And that too can be a symptom of environmental toxicity of various kinds. I know we've had mold problems in some of the schools here. We have mold problems in some of the homes, and the chemtrails, not only the metals in them, but we have actually found fungus, and we've found erythrocytes, freeze-dried red blood cells in some of those. And we found mycoplasmas, which are a pathogen in those chemtrail samples. So I'm not surprised to hear that. Well, thank you very much.
Oh,
that was very enlightening. Thanks.
You're welcome.